The Bank of Shangri-La has seen a lot of success over the past 23 years. Our bank has gone from an organization that has less than a dozen banks to now pretty much a regional powerhouse with 200 locations and 3,000 employees. One of the things that we are seeing with this continued growth is that there is a gap in our human resources support. And in order for us to be a bank that prides itself on providing excellent personal customer service, and having staff members that are invested in their work, we must take the time to invest in our human resources department. Um, as you all know, one of the trends that we've been seeing is that we have just been hiring people without a strategy in mind, and really essentially just hiring bodies to fill vacancies. And that is causing, even more problems down the road. So while I do think that we need to do more on the recruitment and the hiring side, and actually would recommend that we focus on recruiting and staffing and compensation and benefits, as well as performance management in our four priorities that we're allowed to choose, today I'm going to actually focus on our talent development, um, which I think is going to be a really beneficiary area to focus on for our company. So in general, what we're seeing with our structure of our HR department is that it's pretty generalized and flat. There are these 8 generalists across the organization, but because of this, it doesn't seem that we have anyone that specializes in a certain area. So one of the recommendation that I'm saying is that we should actually either have our generalists focus on one specific area, and then they can provide that support across the rest of the organization, or we actually reduce the number of generalists that we have, so that we can have people within the organization focus on those other areas of human resources that I mentioned. The reason why I've chosen to talk about talent development today is that companies are really discovering that the only way to get the best is to either pay more than your competitors, or uh, give your staff a reason to want to stay. And given our rapid increase in staffing, I would recommend that we offer competitive wages for our talent. But I also recognize that with a strong talent development team, we can hire decent, hardworking people and bring out the best in them through talent development. So, what is talent development? So, the goals of talent development are that we want to offer targeted leadership development for our staff members, giving our staff members opportunities such as, business rotations or special stretch assignments. We really will see an increase in what our staff produces. We also want to identify and engage with those top talent, those people who are the top talent in our organization, and help them to link their individual goals to the corporate ones, and help them also give them the opportunities to solve our company's biggest problems. We want to constantly engage the engagement of these star individuals, by meeting with them regularly, setting realistic career expectations, and getting them these right development opportunities so that they will continue to want to work for our company. I also think as we shift towards this talent development, we will need managers to play a key role in making sure that their staff are developed. And with that, we need to be able to identify and address any type of red flags that come up, and work with managers to address them quickly. So getting the perspective of the staff member, to make sure that they have the things that they need. We also want to offer training modules. So we want people to actually be able to engage with different trainings that is aligned with their own personal professional development goals. In addition, one of the things that we've seen be very successful is that uh, that we want to have a leadership development program for that top talent. Johnson & Johnson is a company that has implemented a leadership development program in which they identify participants. They nominate, these participants are nominated by senior leadership, and they're enrolled in specific track programs to target the specific capabilities required for future jobs that they would want to pursue. We also know that 30% of organizations have a formal leadership development process, according to a study, and it is showing us that a lack of leadership programs can inhibit internal promotion, which again is another reason why we are losing talent. We want to actually also create a mentorship program, and I'll talk a little bit about one of the successful mentorship programs a little bit later. Um, and we want to provide ample room for experimentation and growth. Again, I will also talk about a company a little bit later, but many companies have discovered that through their internal talent, they see even more productivity with their employees, which ultimately leads to better success within the organization. So there's lots of benefits to us implementing this talent development program, this talent development team. One of the other gaps that was identified um, as we were looking into the the issues that we're having in our company is that Bank of Shangri-La is seeing an increase in mid-level managers who are leaving the company for greater responsibilities. When I talked about the goals of the talent development team, I did talk about some of the ways in which we can engage staff. But studies have really shown that talented people seek out opportunities to grow, and they'll flock to companies that provide these opportunities in them. So investing in a talent development team will help to retain this top talent as well as bring in new talent of individuals who want to work for a company that provides these opportunities. Really, we need to see ourselves, and employees need to view us as almost like a growth platform for talent where people can develop themselves faster than they can elsewhere. So as I mentioned, increased staff retention is one of the benefits of this, because not only is turnover costly to the organization, it also decreases um, productivity. Really, people care. People care if you take a genuine interest in their future, and this will help to build loyalty, and loyalty ultimately increases productivity, which is something we want to do. Um, Another thing that comes up with the benefit of the talent development team is that we are able to promote people internally from our staff. So good, talented people naturally want to advance and appreciate, a company that can provide them with meaningful support in the process. As one Harvard Business Review study showed, capable and ambitious young employees want training, mentoring, and coaching. They want to gain skills, and they want to become more versatile and valuable to the organization. I believe if Bank of Shangri-La is able to do this successfully, they will become the employer of choice, bringing in even more talented individuals to the organization. I think there are definitely some risks associated if we do not create a talent development team. Here's just a couple of statistics that I found very interesting. The first being in the 1 in 3 high potential employees admits to not putting all his effort into his job. 1 in 4 believes that he will be working for another employer in a year, and 1 in 5 believes his personal aspirations are quite different from what the organization has planned for him or her. Um, and, I think that uh, what we have discovered is engaged top performers work harder and often better than their peers. They expect their organizations to treat them well by providing them with stimulating work, lots of recognition, compelling career paths, and the chance to prosper if the organization um, prospers as well. What we're seeing here is that, like, if we are not investing in these things, like, our productivity as a company will increase because our highest potential candidates are not engaged in our work. The other thing I had mentioned before is a benefit of investing in a talent development system or a team is that it will actually increase our higher performers and their ability to be successful in future roles. You know, Turnover is costly to the company because it can obviously it costs them a lot of money to train people, but it can also have a negative impact on an organization's success, um, especially when those top performers are the ones that are having turnover. And we'll just constantly be spending time and money on that if we don't invest in getting our staff the training that they need to be able to be successful. Now, I want to talk a little bit about companies with successful talent development programs. The first one I'm going to talk about is Google. So, Google has, and each one of these companies will have a different approach that they take to talent development, and I just chose the one that was the highest for them. So Google has built in 20% personal project work time into their employees' responsibilities. So this is their way of keeping their employees engaged and interested and invested, and where they are able to um, work on projects that they are interested in, that they self-identified as a challenge, and it challenges their growth. So Google, Gmail was actually created through an entrepreneurship where an employee was given this time to innovate, and Paul Bouchet created Gmail through that time. If he had not had that extra time to work on this personal project, the company would likely not have its most successful tool, which is web-based searchable email system with a very high limit on the amount of data that can be stored. Procter and Gamble is another company that has invested in a leadership development program. And so their company has, because of this, their company has been able to do a lot of promotions from within. So Procter and Gamble identified different capabilities as a company that they want to achieve to put themselves ahead of other companies as it relates to leadership development of their staff members. These different capabilities honor and further strengthen Procter and Gamble's competitive position as an employer of choice. So it's not about just the quality of the Procter and Gamble's leadership development program, but it's also about how they invest in their staff. They have a high caliber of people at every level and every part of the organization that they invest and develop from within. The last company I'll talk about is Walmart. So from 2008 to 2013, Walmart heavily invested in a talent development program. They saw a huge gap in their company where females, diversity and diversity of both race and gender was lacking. And so they created a mentorship program. And the idea about this mentorship program was that it would pair people up to be mentored by someone that they could then see a career path for themselves. And because of their efforts, Walmart was able to increase the number of female managers at the co-manager, store manager, and market manager level significantly, making this a company that, obviously where women can be successful, which was not the case before then. So there are some trends that we see and evolutions that we see in talent development. So first is that both physical and virtual environments are needed to reach staff. The benefit of a virtual environment is they tend to cost less, and as well as using a virtual platform means that anyone can access it at any time, and you don't always have to just find individuals within your company to lead to these development opportunities. You can use people from other organizations or people who have specific areas of expertise to provide different development training opportunities for your staff. As I mentioned, Walmart is an example of a company that now has a mentorship program for their staff. And through their targeted talent development program, they've been able to increase their amount of women in leadership positions at their organization. And we also talked about Google, who has these systems that the entrepreneurship that allows people to challenge themselves and grow and develop, which has made for some very successful business ventures. And then finally, I think the most difficult evolution that we will see in talent development is the pace of change. So as the pace of change increases with technology and with our much faster moving society, it's difficult to predict what skills people will need. We'll essentially have to find ways to help people learn faster every day, and some of those, you know, virtual environments or recordings or online trainings or even in-person trainings may become out of date rather quickly given our fast-paced environment. Finally, I think there will be some challenges to implementing this talent development team. As I mentioned earlier, the way in which we can easily create a talent development team is by changing the number of generalists we have in our organization. Currently, each region has an assigned business partner and two assigned generalists. I think that with the other strategies we will implement, such as the recruiting and the staffing and the compensation and benefits, as well as the um, uh, performance management, we will likely need to decrease the number of generalists or give some additional responsibilities to these generalists to focus on these areas. The good thing about the good thing about a talent development team and the things that we want to do is that we can actually fully integrate the goals of the talent development team with other human resource processes. In particular, there's a clear correlation between talent development and performance management, as I mentioned before. Or if we're thinking about promotion policies or succession and career planning, these are all things that can be linked to talent development. These can be coordinated from one centralized point in HR and does not require significant change in the number of HR representatives we have, but rather in the way in which we staff those representatives and rather in the way in which we delegate responsibilities to those different human resource staff members. Leadership programs that are fully integrated with other human resources processes, such as performance management or promotion policies or training and development, as I mentioned before, will make this transition very easy. And so my recommendation is that we do implement a leadership development training program to be able to decrease the number of turnovers that we have, also help us to not have as many vacancies. If we don't have as much turnover, obviously we will not have as much vacancy and we can be more targeted in how we're hiring people. Um, and also um, uh, really be able to focus on some of the other challenges that we have within our organization as it relates to pay and hiring and staffing practices. Thank you.